This is the Post Shift Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry. What's happening, Post Shifters, and welcome to another episode of the Post Shift Podcast. This week is another Victoria Whisky Fest episode, obviously, because I did a whole bunch there. This one's with James Neal, who is the luxury brand ambassador for Beam Suntory, so he looks after Bowmore, Auchentoshan, and the like, and Lafroig, and that sort of thing in the Scotch realm. And so I sit down with him and have a quick chat just about what sort of got him into the whiskey game and how that's changed his perspective on hospitality. I hope you enjoy this episode, guys. Thanks very much for the support, and I'll see you next week. Bye. So the Post Shift is going, actually this will be, actually get really close to 110 episodes now.
Yeah.
So usually I start by letting you introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hey, my name is James Neal. I'm the World Whisky Ambassador for Beam Suntory.
Lovely. And you're based in Toronto?
I'm based in Toronto, yeah. So live in Hamilton, but Toronto is where I'm based of.
No one knows where Hamilton is.
So true.
What brands do you look after?
So as the World Whisky Ambassador, I get to oversee Lafroig, Bowmore, Auchentoshan, Kilbeggan, and Tyrconnell.
It's a decent little spread.
Yeah, lots of fun. A little Irish, a little Scottish.
Yeah, and I saw Solomon was in the suite yesterday and sent me a picture of the Tyrconnell 16-year-old.
This 16-year-old is fantastic. A Moscatel, Sherry Oloroso, absolutely game changer. It's probably my favorite go-to right now.
So usually I like to sort of get down to the nitty-gritty of like, what's your origin story? What's your number one? What's your James Neal number one comic book? How did you get into the industry? And like, have you always been in the industry?
Been in the industry a long time. When I was a young guy, 20 years old, I took on retail management as a career path.
Okay.
Lived in Toronto for a lot of those years, and I always had a hankering to get into the bar industry. So I was bartending for a little bit, had a passion for it, took the process-driven retail structure and thought I could apply it to the industry culture in the hospitality world. And if I brought structure into that, hospitality, which was often a chaotic business 20 years ago, they ran on chaos theory more than any process. So it kind of transitioned well for me. Ran my own company as a consultant for a lot of years. Took a shot in Vancouver. Ran a restaurant here for a couple of years in Vancouver, which was a lot of fun. And that's where I got my hankering for the world of whiskey and understanding what whiskey was about by, just getting out there and tasting so many different great scotches. I wasn't going to turn back.
And like, what year was this?
So that would have been 2009 to 2014.
Okay.
2014 I would have been in the Vancouver market and worked in Yaletown and got to know a lot of people like Lauren Moat and Sean Layton, and we're all really close friends, and I was able to really learn a lot from people like those. Two people are great examples of how you can learn very quickly. And Sebastian Legoff really taught me a lot as well.
And so, Sebastian's awesome. Yeah. So what sort of drew you to the whiskey side of things? Like, what was it? Was it the romance? Was it it sounds like you're a very process heavy sort of thinker. And was it like, how does everything work?
So it's funny because as you get into hospitality, as much process as you want to bring in, chaos is a part of the world that we all live in.
Yeah, you plan the black and the white, and then you just live in the gray.
Yeah, exactly. So you just kind of get through day to day. I had an Italian restaurant focused on wine, and one of my wine reps came by, and she said, "Hey, James, I've got an extra seat. Like 20 people are going to sit down with Richard Patterson from White Mackay. Yeah. Do you want to sit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take a seat at that table any day of the week." So it's one of those stories where you're out drinking copious amounts of wine, having a good night, and then I wake up at 9 in the morning to go through 4 hours with Richard Patterson. Changed my life. Changed exactly how I think about whiskey. And ever since then, I was like, whiskey is where I want to be. Always been a big fan of the Beam Suntory brands. Knew Matt Jones. Took a contract when I had my own company as a consultant that took me out to the Hamilton market. Ended up being out there a little bit longer than I thought because I'm still there. But always contracted with Beam Suntory on a part-time basis as a fill-in ambassador. Eventually took a role with them for 2 years in sales, and then the brand ambassador role came open, and being so close to Matt for all those years, it was a natural succession for me to just slide right in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that was the trigger. Meeting Richard Patterson, like that changed my game for the love of whiskey, by all means.
So with a pretty broad, like, and I think you've got polarizing categories within like what you look after, because like people who love Scotch very rarely love Irish, and people who love Irish very rarely love Scotch, and it could be my dad was Irish or my dad was Scottish sort of thing. How do you balance out this sort of like, or especially Tycannolic with like it's a Irish single malt, which there's not too much knowledge. It was one area, like I did my CSS recently, it's one area that I kind of biffed, because you sort of get American whiskey, not bourbon, but American whiskey is the general rules, and Irish whiskey outside of like your Irish, the ones we get here in Canada, because you sort of come through the ranks as an industry person, like learning, well, bourbon, straight Kentucky bourbon is made this way, straight Kentucky rye is made this way, Irish whiskey is made this way, but then you get into the other area of the categories in those countries, and there's a whole different set of rules that you don't, and I still pass, but I biffed those categories, but Irish single malt's not really a thing, like, except that there's Tycannol. Is there anything other Irish single malt in BC?
No.
Yeah. So how do you sort of bridge that gap between people who are Scotch single malt diehards and you go, hey, you should really try this single malt?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the world of Irish and Scottish, you are right. We're talking lovers and haters of each other. I think the reality is, though, even with our Scottish brands, we still have polarizing flavor profiles. We have Auchentoshan, which sits unpeated and is 3 times distilled. So if people hear 3 times distilled, and they often go to Irish whiskey culture. And then we've got Lefroy, which is the king of peat and the king of Islay for sure in terms of peated whiskeys. So it happens even in our Scottish portfolio as well as our Irish portfolio. The transition, liquid to lips is the trick. Liquid to lips. And Tyrconnell is that brand. If you get it on somebody's lips, they love it. It's not hard to sell. It's just hard to get out there and transition the way of thinking. Once I get it in somebody's hand, they often don't turn back. Yeah, they're done, because it's a game changer.
I think sometimes the romance of Scotch, especially like Auchentoshan is another brand that there isn't too many triple distilled Scotch whiskies out there, and people who love Scotch whiskey don't really delve into, they just assume the rules are there. They don't really delve into like, oh, how many times is it distilled? What does the distillation process do for it? I love Auchentoshan because I think it's a gateway Scotch drug, if that makes sense. Like, it's the one that's like, everybody who says they hate Scotch is usually some dick has given them Lefroy at a party when they were 18 years old. And that's what they think all Scotch tastes like. All Scotch is with peaty.
Yeah, Auchentoshan is I agree with your statement. It is a gateway Scotch for sure. What I also love about the Auchentoshan series, go take the American oak and make a daiquiri with it. It's bartender friendly. Be creative. Best daiquiri of your life. I kid you not.
Are you joking?
Kid you not.
Okay, so that's going to be the new bartender geek stuff, to have an Auchentoshan American oak.
It is a killer. And I wasn't sure about it when I first heard it. So we have the Bartender's Malt, which is an international competition. So Nick and Tolly, a good friend of mine from Hamilton, won Bartender's Malt 2. And I said, let's do a launch party. So we did a launch party, and the first cocktail he served was an American oak daiquiri. And my mind was just thrown. It's the best daiquiri I've had, and I'll stand by it. Now I make it at home all the time. So I love the gateway of Auchentoshan because it's a playful Scotch. It's a light Scotch. Being triple distilled, we really let the spirit speak. So it comes off of the highest proof ABV of any new make spirit in all of Scotland.
Oh, wow.
It is the only single malt distillery to triple distill every single drop for a whiskey. And that does make it pretty special.
It does. I really love the Kilbregen brand. The Two Gingers, I think, is one of the best bang for your buck Irish whiskies. Like, I know there are other certain Irish whiskies in the market that we won't talk about on this podcast that have massive strongholds. For me, it's been a number of years that I haven't had any of the other brands. I've always had Kilbregen Two Gingers. Don't get me wrong, horrible name for most people. Two Gingers is just for a lot of people. But that, for the bang for your buck flavor profile that Kilbregen, that product comes with, I think it's the best Irish whiskey on the market that no one knows about.
Yeah, we're really two gingers you won't see in the Canadian market anymore. It's Kilbeggan is our driving force there. Kilbeggan and only Kilbeggan. So we've done some good innovation in the Kilbeggan market, though. We just released a Kilbeggan Rye.
Oh, wow.
Amazing. We also have our Kilbeggan single grain. Kilbeggan Rye just won at the Irish Whiskey Awards Best New Whiskey of the Year.
What's the mash bill on that?
Rye, 100%.
100% Irish rye?
Yes.
Ooh, is that in BC yet?
Yes.
Oh.
No, Alberta. Okay. Everything's in Alberta. It's the Wild West out there.
And the single grain, what's the single grain?
Single grain, the mash bill on that is a 94% corn and then 6% barley.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and what was
beautifully balanced.
What was the reasoning behind, so that's really, both of those are really completely against the grain for Irish whiskey.
Yeah, John Cashman was kind of the creator behind those, and he just recently stepped aside from the Beam Group, which is sad. He's a good friend, and it's hard to see that happen. But he's really pushed the envelope with Kilbeggan and Tyrconnell. And he continually tries innovation. They know they're sitting on great product, so why not start playing with that product and going with some unique styles? Being with Beam Suntory, we're the only company that has 5. We have a company in all 5 major producing regions for whiskey. We have the oldest companies out there in the world, Kilbeggan being one of them. So that kind of history is rich. If we don't innovate, and we have so much access to so much innovation because we have so many resources across our company, we can leverage that. And John was always one about innovation and kind of always pushing the limits and trying new things. Some things work and some things don't, but if you don't try, you won't succeed. And
I find a lot of people, I always laugh about innovations in the Scotch, I think the Scotch industry more so, because I laugh when people are like, oh, it's really they tried a new distiller or a new master blender, and you're like, okay, yeah, but you're going to show up and you get the big folder. You're like, I got some really good ideas. No. The folder is here. This is what you do. This is how we make everything. We don't innovate here.
Yeah, and we can be a little bit old-fashioned in the world of Scotch. I think the biggest thing is just keep it fresh, keep innovating, and keep on challenging yourself. You will see more innovation come out through the Kilbeggan and the Tyrconnell line. That's always going to continue. And we've got some great releases coming up in the other series too. So
how does, because you do, what do you say, Auchentoshan and Bowmore, Lafroig, Kilbeggan, Tyrconnell. And then you've also got Jeff. He does all the Edgerton brands, so the Macallan and the...
Macallan, Glen Ross, and Highland Park. So we have Jeff and Cam. So Cam's on the East Coast and Jeff's on the West Coast, and they take care of the Edgerton group. Yeah.
So how do you guys tag team shows and stuff to showcase the whole portfolio?
Yeah, you have to. We're a team, no matter what. So whether I'm working with Tish or Ray, Jeff, Cam, it doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, next week or the week after, someday when I have a moment, Cam and I will go out together and tour Toronto, and we'll go to all of our on-premise accounts, and we'll have conversations with those guys as a team, because it just makes sense, especially with the placement of where we are, where Bowmore is going this year. We've got a world partnership with Aston Martin. So that's really exciting for us.
That's freaking exciting.
Yeah, I'm just hoping I get one as a car.
Yeah, I know when Matty was doing Macallan, or when he was doing Bowmore, he got the jacket, and he was doing that big partnership in Toronto with the...
Sir. So this is the same cut, the same style. Bowmore Sir suits, which are awesome. Nothing like getting a custom fitted suit. But if I can have a custom fitted car, I'd be really excited
at least sitting in one or driving it for 15-20 minutes.
That's all I want, really.
So what's the plan for 2020 for the brands, for you personally as a brand ambassador? What are the pros and cons? Because I'm chatting to a lot of brand ambassadors obviously this weekend. you sort of eased into it, so you sort of learned the pros and cons as you went along. But as on a personal level, what are the pros and cons? Because I think a lot of youngsters see the gleany, sort of glimmery, sort of social media coolness of it all. And obviously you're good friends with Matt Jones, and so am I. So I know the dark side of brand ambassadorship.
Yeah.
But how do you balance off the pros and cons of all that?
When you're off, you're off. The biggest thing is travel. That was an adjustment for me that I was going to have to take on. I got a 6-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So I'm a dad. And, you know, it's one of those things that even before I took this job, I had to talk to his mom and say, hey, I know we aren't together anymore and you don't really get to make my decisions in life anymore, but I'm about to take a job that's going to change my life. And I needed everybody on board. So having the support of my son, he wasn't thrilled about it when I talked to him about me traveling across the country. His mom wasn't thrilled about it. My girlfriend is definitely not thrilled about it. So balancing the pros and cons is when you're home with your family, and you've really got to take that time in and alone. And, you know, December is one of those months where we aren't as busy. But then, as of now, I'm hooped for the next couple of months. But that's the fun part of the job. You ride it out. When you get home, you spend that quality time with them. Be active. Do something to keep yourself active. Yeah.
So what are the plans from a brand standpoint? What's, like, apart from the freaking awesome Bowmore Aston Martin, like, I'm just thinking of how much money Bowmore's going to drop into a thing in Toronto, and just Aston Martins everywhere and crap like that. It's mental. What are other things you're excited about for 2020? Yeah.
2020, the Friends of Lefroy series is always one of my favorite things. So we do Friends of Lefroy dinners in each city across the country. Those are always amazing to do. And they're amazing because I can go to one city in Vancouver, and then I can go to Winnipeg, and I'll see somebody from the Vancouver dinner there, and I'm like, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh, I just love Lefroy so much. I'm like, you know it's the same whiskey, right? Like, I'm not. So it's amazing to see the cultish, almost, Friends of Lefroy. That is something I always love about our Lefroy following. You love us or you hate us.
Yeah.
We know it. So that's always fun and exciting. The Bowmore Aston Martin partnership is going to be so much fun. And then Auchentoshan, we aren't continuing with our Bartenders Malt series, but we are definitely going to continue in attracting bartenders to the brand. We definitely want to focus on getting people out there with the 12-year and the American Oak and the 3-wood, and let's go make cocktails.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun. I think there's a big cocktailing market that's left on the table with Scotch, and I think we need to kind of bring that back to life. And bartenders love Scotch, so
yeah, I think that's the hard one, because I've read articles and I've been part of Facebook rants about things like the blood and sand and stuff like that, and I think there's always a certain thing, like a certain whiskey you have to pick for a blood and sand, or a blood and sand does suck. You know,
absolutely.
Like, the blood and sand is a difficult cocktail. Firstly, it's orange juice. Secondly, it's cherry herring. Thirdly, it's Scotch. And it's like, you sort of biff all those three things, it's going to be a crappy cocktail.
Yeah, you're 100%. And orange juice is one of those things that can kill anything.
Yeah.
It's killed vodka. But it literally, if you take our Auchentoshan 3-wood for blood and sand, now you're talking. Now you got some bold flavors that are going to shine through and let the whiskey do talk a little bit. So you're right. You got to pick the right ones. An American Oak Daiquiri, I know it sounds crazy, and our Bartender's Malt, pick it up and do an old fashioned with it. It's stunning.
And are you going to Scotland anytime soon?
Yeah, first week in June. I'll be going to hang out with Ron and John and spend a bit of time there, and then I'll be heading over to Ireland to finish off the trip as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'll be in the Kilbeggan. And
you taking a bunch of bartenders with you, or is it just a solo trip?
Solo trip, brand immersion. It's about me really getting in and putting the whiskey into my veins, literally and figuratively, and understanding what that culture is.
Interesting. That sounds like a great trip.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I just want to put on some wellies and go cut some peat with John Campbell. It's like it's a dream. Like that's what I'm going to live.
Have you got a masterclass today?
I've got 2 master classes today.
Oh, wow. What time?
I just finished my Lafroig master class. First class of the day. Nothing like drinking Lafroig at 11 in the morning. And then I have a Bowmore Auchentoshan class at 2:40.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, enjoy the rest of your Whiskey Fest.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting down. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Post Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're listening, whatever platform you're on, give me a good rating, subscribe, listen along. I'm going to keep going. I really enjoy sitting down with people and learning where they're from, what they did, and how they got to where they were. So if you love it, give me a good 5 stars. If you don't, give me 1 and I'll try harder.